For 3 hours, the Vorthak fleet hung motionless in space around Earth. 700 warships, each one capable of destroying cities, sat silent as their crews tried to understand what they had just learned. Inside the flagship Death's Edge, Supreme Admiral Korthax paced back and forth like a caged animal. "Sir, what are your orders?" his weapons officer asked nervously. "I don't know," the Supreme Admiral admitted for the first time in his career. "Everything we thought we knew about the universe has just been proven wrong." Ambassador Moon Jae-hwan prepared for the most important conversation in human history. He was a diplomat who had spent years studying alien cultures, learning how different species communicated and made decisions. Now he would use that knowledge to prevent a war that could destroy both civilizations. "Open a direct channel to the Vorthak flagship," he requested. "No encryption, no military protocols. Just two people talking about the future." Supreme Admiral Korthax appeared on the communication screen. His reptilian features showed confusion and something that might have been fear. Behind him, Korthax could see the bridge of a ship designed for conquest, now facing an enemy that didn't want to fight. "I am Ambassador Moon Jae-hwan of Earth," the human said calmly. "I'm not a soldier or a scientist. I'm just someone who believes that any problem can be solved if people are willing to talk honestly about it." General Yu Hai-rim watched the conversation from her command post, ready to coordinate humanity's military response if diplomacy failed. She was tough and practical. A soldier who understood that sometimes peace required being prepared for war, but she also hoped that her weapons would never need to be used. "You offer us knowledge," Supreme Admiral Korthax said slowly. "But what guarantee do we have that this isn't a trick? How do we know you won't use your superior technology to conquer our empire once we abandon our military strength?" Ambassador Moon smiled sadly. "Because conquest was never our goal. If we wanted to destroy your empire, we could have done it already. Our ships could phase into your home system and eliminate your entire civilization before you knew we were there. Instead, we're offering to teach you everything we know." Dr. Jong Sung-woo was deep in the Predecessor Research Institute, a facility built around the ancient ruins beneath Earth's surface. He was the leading expert on predecessor philosophy and technology, spending his days trying to understand beings who had evolved beyond physical existence millions of years ago. "The predecessors left very clear instructions," he reported to the diplomatic team. "Their knowledge should be shared with any species mature enough to use it wisely. The key word is mature. They've been waiting to see if the Vorthak Empire could grow beyond its need for conquest." Commander Cho Min-ho stood beside the newest class of exploration vessels, ships that incorporated both human engineering and predecessor principles. These vessels were designed not for war but for discovery, capable of traveling between dimensions to explore realities beyond the physical universe. "Sir," he called to Admiral Im, "the new exploration fleets are ready for launch. We can begin joint missions with any Vorthak crews who want to learn about dimensional exploration." Supreme Admiral Korthax was quiet for a long time, thinking about everything he had seen and heard. His empire had conquered worlds for thousands of years, believing that strength was the only way to survive in a hostile galaxy. But what if they had been wrong? What if there was a better way? "General Thexmar," he called to his subordinate, "what is your honest assessment of human military capabilities?" General Thexmar's scaled face showed deep respect as he answered, "Sir, their technology is so far beyond ours that fighting them would be like using stone spears against nuclear weapons. But more importantly, they could have destroyed our entire fleet in the first few minutes of combat. Instead, they showed restraint and offered us a chance to learn." Ambassador Moon waited patiently as the alien commanders discussed their options. He knew that this decision couldn't be rushed. The Vorthak Empire was being asked to abandon everything they had believed about how the galaxy worked. "If we agree to your offer," Supreme Admiral Korthax finally said, "what would happen to our military? Our ships? Our way of life? Your ships would be converted to exploration and research vessels," Ambassador Moon replied. "Your military skills would be redirected toward protecting other species from natural disasters and cosmic threats. Your empire would become the Galactic Research Consortium, dedicated to unlocking the mysteries the predecessors left behind." Dr. Jong Sung-woo sent data files to the Vorthak fleet, showing them images from the predecessor ruins. Ancient machines that generated power by manipulating black holes, computers that calculated by accessing the memories of parallel universes, transportation systems that moved objects instantly across galactic distances by folding space-time. "This is what we're offering to share with you," Ambassador Moon explained. "Technology that makes interstellar travel as easy as walking across a room. Computers that can solve any mathematical problem by consulting infinite alternate realities. Energy sources that will never run out because they draw power from the formation of the universe itself." General Yu He Rim watched as Vorthak ship after Vorthak ship powered down their weapons. The alien crews were making their choice, and it was the choice that could save both species from a war that nobody could win. 3 months later, Commander Cho Min-ho stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Infinite Horizon, watching as human and Vorthak crews worked together to prepare for humanity's first dimensional exploration mission. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining human creativity with Vorthak durability and predecessor physics. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Park Min-seo, now serving as the ship's pilot, "dimensional drive is ready for activation. We're prepared to phase into the alternate reality designated as Dimension 7 Alpha." Beside her stood Sub-Commander Thex Skull, General Thexmar's daughter, who had volunteered to be part of the first joint exploration crew. Her reptilian features showed excitement instead of the warrior's aggression that had once defined her species. "Human and Vorthak. Crews report ready for dimensional transition," she announced in English that she had learned over the past months of training. The transformation of the galaxy had happened faster than anyone expected. Within weeks of the first diplomatic contact, Vorthak engineers were working alongside human scientists to understand predecessor technology. Within months, their combined fleets were exploring realities that existed beyond the physical universe. Dr. Zhong Sung-woo had become the director of the new Galactic Research Consortium, overseeing projects that would have been considered impossible just a year earlier. His latest report described contact with other transcended civilizations in distant galaxies, beings who had evolved beyond physical existence just like the predecessors. "The universe is infinite," he wrote, "and it's full of wonders we're only beginning to understand. The predecessors were just one of many species who learned to manipulate reality itself. Now working together, humans and Vorthak are ready to join that community of transcended beings." General Yu Hye-rim, now serving as military advisor for the new galactic order, watched as former Vorthak warships used their advanced sensors to help human ships explore cosmic phenomena that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The partnership was working better than anyone had dared to hope. 5 years after the first contact, Commander Cho Min-ho prepared for the most ambitious mission yet attempted. His ship would phase completely out of the physical universe and make contact with a civilization that existed as pure consciousness in a reality made entirely of information. "All stations report ready," Lieutenant Park announced. "Dimensional phase drive is charged and stable. We're ready to leave the physical universe entirely." Sub-Commander Thexgal checked her instruments one final time. "Vorthak systems are integrated and functioning perfectly. Our species' natural ability to process multiple data streams will help us communicate with beings made of pure thought." As the Infinite Horizon began its phase transition, Commander Cho thought about how much had changed since that day when alien ships first appeared above Earth. Humanity had revealed their greatest secret. The Vorthak Empire had abandoned conquest for exploration, and together they were exploring mysteries that neither species could have imagined alone. The ship vanished from normal space-time, carrying its mixed crew into realities beyond imagination. Behind them, Earth and the former Vorthak homeworlds continued their joint research projects, slowly unlocking secrets left behind by civilizations that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. The universe was vast and full of mysteries. Thanks to the predecessors, humanity and their former enemies had finally become worthy of exploring them all. The combined attack of 700 Vorthak warships should have destroyed entire solar systems. Energy beams that could crack planets, missiles that carried the power of dying stars, and weapons that the Empire had used to conquer half the galaxy, all fired at once at the 4 human supercarriers. And then something happened that broke Supreme Admiral Korthax's understanding of reality. The attacks didn't just disappear like before. They were caught, twisted, and sent back at the alien fleet with twice their original power. 50 Vorthak ships were destroyed by their own weapons, turned against them by technology that seemed like pure magic. "Impossible," Supreme Admiral Korthax screamed. "How can they do this?" Our scientists have studied physics for thousands of years. Professor Kwon Tae-young heard the alien's desperate question from his laboratory deep inside the indomitable horizon. He was an old man with kind eyes and white hair, but his mind held secrets that could change the galaxy forever. He had been waiting his entire life for someone to ask the right question. "Admiral Im," he said over the communication system, "I think it's time we told them the truth. They deserve to know what they're really fighting against." Fleet Admiral Im Seong-min considered the professor's words carefully. The secret had been kept for 2 centuries, protected by thousands of people who gave their lives to keeping humanity's greatest discovery hidden. But now, with alien fleets burning in space around Earth, perhaps it was time for the truth to come out. "Open a channel to all Vorthak ships," he ordered. "Full broadcast, no encryption. It's time they learned about humanity's real history." Admiral Yang Kyung-soo slowly made his way to the communication center. He was 180 years old, kept alive by technology that the galaxy didn't know existed. His body was frail, but his mind was sharp as ever. He was the last person alive who remembered the day everything changed for humanity. "My name is Admiral Yang Kyung-soo," he said into the transmitter, his voice reaching every alien ship in the fleet. "I am speaking to you from the bridge of a human warship that your empire believes should not exist. You want to know how we develop technology that surpasses your own? Then listen carefully, because I'm going to tell you a story that will change everything you think you know about this galaxy." Supreme Admiral Korthax found himself leaning forward to hear better. Despite his anger and confusion, something in the old human's voice suggested that he was about to hear something important. 200 years ago, Admiral Yang continued, human archaeologists were digging deep beneath our planet's surface looking for oil and minerals. What they found instead changed our species forever. Dr. An Soo-jin was in her temporal physics laboratory, monitoring equipment that measured time itself as it flowed around the Supercarrier. She was young for such an important position, but her understanding of time and space exceeded most species' greatest scientists. She had spent her life studying the gifts left behind by beings who had mastered reality itself. "They found a city," Admiral Yang said. "Not a ruined city, not an abandoned city, but a living city that had been waiting beneath our world for millions of years. It was built by beings who had evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, creatures who understood the universe in ways that our science said was impossible." Captain Go Hyeowon led the archaeological team that had first explored the ancient ruins. She was brave and curious, always eager to discover new things about the mysterious civilization that had left so much knowledge behind. Her reports had convinced Earth's leaders to begin the secret project that created the supercarriers. "We called them the predecessors," Admiral Yang continued. "They had watched our galaxy for eons, waiting for a species that could inherit their knowledge without being destroyed by it. They had seen too many civilizations discover advanced technology and use it to destroy themselves." General Thexmar listened to the human story with growing amazement. Advanced beings who had transcended physical existence, technology that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. It sounded like mythology, not science. "The predecessors left behind more than just machines," Admiral Yang explained. "They left behind a complete understanding of how the universe actually works beneath its apparent laws. Physics, as your empire understands it, is just the surface of reality. Underneath are deeper principles that allow for manipulation of time, space, matter, and energy in ways that seem magical but are actually perfectly natural." Professor Kwon Tae-young took over the transmission from his friend. His voice was full of wonder, even after decades of studying predecessor technology. "Imagine if everything you knew about science was just the first page of a book with 1,000,000 pages. The predecessors showed us the rest of the book." Dr. An Soo-jin checked her instruments as the professor spoke. The temporal fields around the supercarrier were stable, allowing the ship to exist partially outside normal time. This made it nearly invulnerable to conventional attacks and gave its weapons the ability to phase through normal matter. "We spent 50 years just learning how to read their language," Professor Kwon continued. "Another 50 years understanding their basic concepts. The supercarriers you see today represent 2 centuries of careful study, slowly integrating predecessor knowledge with human engineering." Captain Go Hyeowon smiled as she remembered the early days of exploration in the underground city. Every room had contained wonders that challenged everything humanity thought they knew about science. Machines that generated power by manipulating space-time itself, computers that calculated by accessing parallel dimensions, Weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics in small areas. The predecessors didn't just leave us technology, Admiral Yang said. They left us wisdom. They taught us that true advancement comes not from conquering others, but from understanding the universe itself. They showed us that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy, but the ability to create and protect. Supreme Admiral Korthax felt his worldview crumbling as he listened to the humans' words. If this story was true, then the Vorthak Empire's entire approach to galactic conquest was not just wrong, but primitive. They had been using crude force to solve problems that required elegant understanding. Our ships don't just use advanced technology, Fleet Admiral Im said, taking over the transmission. They operate according to principles that your empire doesn't even know exist. We can manipulate time, space, and the fundamental forces of reality, because the predecessors taught us that these forces were never as fixed as most species believe, Dr. On. Sujin's instruments showed temporal fluctuations as the four supercarriers synchronized their reality manipulation systems. Space around Earth was becoming a laboratory where the laws of physics could be adjusted and modified as needed. The shields that make your weapons disappear don't block them, Professor Kwan explained. They redirect the attacks to parallel dimensions where they never happened. The weapons that destroy your ships from the inside don't break through your armor. They phase through it by temporarily existing in multiple realities at once. General Thexmar felt a chill run through his scaled body. His empire had spent thousands of years building weapons and defenses based on their understanding of physics. But if the humans were right, then Vorthak science was like a child's toy compared to what was possible. Why are you telling us this? Supreme Admiral Korthax demanded. If your technology is so superior, why not just destroy our fleet and be done with it? Admiral Yang Kyung-soo's old voice carried across space to every alien ship. Because the predecessors taught us that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies but making them your friends. We're not telling you this to humiliate you. We're telling you because we want to offer you something your empire has never had before. Fleet Admiral Im smiled as he prepared to make humanity's greatest offer. We want to share the predecessors' knowledge with you. All of it. Every secret, every technology, every principle that allows us to do the impossible. But in return, your empire must change. No more conquest. No more destruction. Join us in exploring the universe as students instead of conquerors. The alien fleet hung in space around Earth. 700 warships suddenly faced with a choice that would determine the future of their entire civilization. Behind them, the 4 human supercarriers waited patiently, their impossible technology a promise of wonders beyond imagination. The emergency meeting of the Vorthak High Command lasted 6 hours. General Thexmar stood before a council of the Empire's greatest military minds, trying to explain how a single human ship had destroyed 50 of his best warships without taking any damage at all. You expect us to believe, said Supreme Admiral Korthax, that a primitive species has developed technology that our greatest scientists say is impossible? I expect you to believe the evidence, General Thexmar replied firmly. Their shields don't absorb energy or deflect it. The attacks simply cease to exist. Their weapons phase through our armor and destroy ships from the inside. We have no defense against them. Meanwhile, deep beneath Earth's Atlantic Ocean, Captain Hong Da-yoon felt her ship stirring to life. The Eternal Vigilance had been sleeping on the ocean floor for 30 years, waiting for this moment. She was a tough woman with scars from training accidents and eyes that had seen things most humans couldn't imagine. All stations report ready, her second-in-command announced. Power core is at maximum. Weapons are charged and the crew is at battle stations. Fleet Admiral Im Seong-min stood in the command center that connected all of Earth's hidden supercarriers. He was the oldest active officer in the secret fleet, with gray hair and a face lined from decades of carrying humanity's biggest secret. Around him, displays showed 4 massive shapes beginning to move beneath Earth's oceans. Gentlemen and ladies, he announced to his ship commanders, the time for hiding is over. The Vorthak Empire has called for reinforcements. 500 additional ships are on their way to Earth. We cannot allow them to reach our planet. In the Indian Ocean, the Sovereign Shield began its ascent from the ocean depths. Commander Ryu Sang-ho watched as his ship's defensive systems came online. This vessel was different from the indomitable Horizon. Instead of fighters and weapons, it carried technology that could protect entire continents from attack. Sir, his tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors detect the Vorthak reinforcement fleet. They'll arrive in 18 hours. Plenty of time, Commander Ryu replied calmly. Begin deployment of planetary defense grids. Dr. Lee Hae-rin sat in her laboratory aboard the Stormcaller, reviewing data they had collected from captured alien technology over the past 20 years. She was a brilliant scientist who had spent her career studying how different species developed their weapons and defenses. The Vorthak ships are impressive, she told her research team, but they're based on principles we understood and surpassed decades ago. Their energy weapons are powerful but crude, their shields are strong but inflexible, and their computers are advanced but limited by conventional thinking. High above Earth, General Thexmar received word that the reinforcement fleet was coming. 500 of the Empire's most powerful warships, including the massive flagship Death's Edge, would arrive within hours. Surely such force would be enough to overcome whatever tricks the humans were using. But then his sensors detected something that made his blood run cold. The ocean was moving again. Not just in one place, but in 4 different locations around the planet, sir. His science officer reported with a shaking voice. We're detecting massive displacement of water in the Atlantic, Indian, and Arctic Oceans. Energy signatures are similar to the first human ship, but each one is different. General Thexmar felt his confidence crumble. How many ships do they have hidden down there? Unknown, sir. But based on the water displacement, each one is as large as the first vessel. From the Atlantic Ocean, the Eternal Vigilance rose like an angry sea monster. This ship was configured as a mobile fortress, with weapons that could bend space and time around them. Its hull was darker than the other ships, designed to absorb energy and redirect it as devastating attacks. Captain Hong Da-Yun stood on her bridge, watching as her ship broke the surface. All weapon systems online, she reported to Fleet Admiral Im. Ready to demonstrate what real firepower looks like. The Indian Ocean birthed the Sovereign Shield, a vessel that looked more like a floating city than a warship. Instead of gun turrets, it had massive dome-shaped structures that hummed with power. Commander Ryu Sang-ho knew that his ship could generate protective fields strong enough to stop planet-killing weapons. Planetary defense grid is active, he announced. Earth is now protected by energy shields that extend from the surface to high orbit. Any attack on our cities will be automatically blocked and redirected back at the attackers. From the Arctic Ocean came the Stormcaller, a ship that specialized in weather control and atmospheric warfare. Captain Lee Hae-jin watched as her vessel's systems began to interact with Earth's atmosphere, creating weather patterns that could be used as weapons. Atmospheric manipulation systems online, she reported. We can now generate hurricanes, tornadoes, and lightning storms anywhere on the planet or in near-Earth space. Fleet Admiral Im Seong-min looked at his displays with satisfaction. 4 supercarriers, each one representing a different aspect of humanity's impossible technological advancement, now floated on Earth's oceans. The secret that had been kept for 2 centuries was finally revealed. Send a message to the alien fleet, he ordered. Tell them that Earth is no longer interested in surrender or negotiation. If they want a war, they'll get one. But they should know that we're not the primitive species they think we are. General Thexmar received the human message just as his reinforcements arrived. The Death's Edge was a ship the size of a small moon, with weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Behind it came 500 of the Empire's finest warships, commanded by Supreme Admiral Korthax himself. General Thexmar, came the Supreme Admiral's voice over the communication system. You will stand down and let real warriors handle this primitive species. But as the reinforcement fleet took position around Earth, something happened that nobody expected. The 4 human supercarriers began to work together, their various technologies combining in ways that created effects beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The indomitable Horizon launched all of its fighters at once, filling space with hundreds of ships that moved like they were dancing instead of flying. The Eternal Vigilance charged its reality-bending weapons, preparing to show the aliens what happened when you tried to break the laws of physics on purpose. The Sovereign Shield extended its protective fields around all 4 human ships, creating a defensive barrier that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. And the Stormcaller began to generate artificial weather patterns in space itself, creating storms made of energy instead of wind and rain. What in the name of the Empire is that? Supreme Admiral Korthax demanded as he watched space itself begin to swirl around the human ships like a cosmic hurricane. Dr. Lee Hae-rin smiled as she watched her instruments. The aliens are about to learn that Earth's ships don't just use advanced technology. They use technology that operates on principles the Vorthak Empire doesn't even know exist. The 4 supercarriers moved into a diamond formation, their various systems linking together through quantum connections that allowed them to share power and coordinate attacks across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They weren't just 4 ships anymore. They were components of a single massive weapon system that could manipulate reality itself. Fleet Admiral Im Seong-min opened communication channels to the entire alien fleet. Attention, Vorthak forces. You came here to conquer a primitive world. Instead, you have awakened something that has been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Your empire builds ships to fight wars. We built ours to rewrite the rules of what war can be. Supreme Admiral Korthax looked down at the 4 human ships with growing unease. His fleet of 700 warships should have been able to crush any opposition, but the technology he was seeing defied everything his empire knew about space combat. All ships, he ordered, prepare for coordinated attack. We'll hit them with everything we have at once. No species, no matter how advanced, can survive the combined firepower of the entire Vorthak battle fleet. But Fleet Admiral Im had one more surprise for the aliens. Activate Project Deep Strike, he ordered. Show them what happens when human engineering meets impossible physics. The 4 supercarriers began to glow with light that came from no source the aliens could identify. Space around them started to bend and twist as they prepared to demonstrate why humanity had spent 2 centuries in secret, building weapons that could fight gods. General Thexmar had conquered 47 worlds and he knew the smell of fear. But right now, looking down at the massive human ship, he was the one feeling afraid for the first time in decades. Still, he was a warrior of the Vorthak Empire and retreat was not in his nature. Weapons officer, he growled. Target the human ship with everything we have. Full power bombardment. I want to see what their defenses can actually do. Dr. Shin Woo-jin sat in his laboratory deep inside the indomitable horizon, watching quantum equations scroll across dozens of screens. He was a small man with thick glasses, but his brain contained some of the most advanced physics knowledge in the galaxy. He had spent 20 years figuring out how to make impossible things possible. Admiral, he called over the communication system. The alien fleet is charging weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. They're preparing to hit us with enough power to crack a moon. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood calmly on the bridge, his hands behind his back. Captain Bae Young-ho, the defensive systems coordinator, looked nervous as he watched the alien weapons power up. His job was to protect the ship, but he had never faced anything like this before. Sir, should I raise shields to maximum power? Captain Bae asked. Standard defensive posture only, Admiral Park replied. Let's not show them everything we can do right away. Commander O.G. Hai, the intelligence officer, studied the alien fleet through her computer screens. She had been watching alien technology for years, learning their strengths and weaknesses. Her files contained secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Admiral, based on our analysis, their weapons should be able to penetrate any known shielding technology, she reported. Are you sure about this? Admiral Park just smiled. Dr. Shin, are you ready to give our guests a demonstration of human engineering? All systems are stable, sir. Quantum field generators are operating within normal parameters. We're as ready as we'll ever be. High above Earth, 50 Vorthak battleships opened fire at the same time. Beams of pure energy that could vaporize mountains streaked down toward the indomitable horizon. The light was so bright it could be seen from space, and the power was enough to destroy entire cities. Lieutenant Park Min-seo watched from her fighter cockpit as the alien attack reached the supercarrier. She was young and brave, with dreams of becoming an ace pilot. She had trained for years to fight aliens, but seeing the actual battle was more terrifying than anything she had imagined. The ship is hit, she screamed into her radio. Direct impact on the forward hull. But then something impossible happened. The energy beam struck the indomitable horizon's shields and simply stopped. They didn't bounce off or get absorbed. They just ceased to exist as if they had never been fired at all. Dr. Shin Woo-jin watched his instruments with satisfaction. Quantum field displacement is working perfectly, he reported. Enemy weapons are being redirected to parallel dimensions. Zero damage to primary hull. Captain Bae Young-ho stared at his screens in amazement. Sir, the shields aren't even showing strain. It's like we weren't attacked at all. General Thexmar couldn't believe what his sensors were telling him. His most powerful weapons had simply disappeared when they hit the human ship. No explosion, no energy feedback, nothing. It was as if the attacks had never happened. Impossible, he roared. No shield technology can do that.
Fire again!
All ships maximum power. This time 100 Vorthak warships fired together. The combined energy was enough to crack a small planet. Space itself seemed to bend under the power of the attack. But when the beams hit the indomitable horizon, the result was exactly the same. The weapon simply vanished into nothingness. Sir, Dr. Shin called to Admiral Park. The aliens seem confused. Should we show them how real weapons work? Launch Fighter Wing Beta, Admiral Park ordered. Let Lieutenant Park and her squadron demonstrate our offensive capabilities. Lieutenant Park Min-seo felt her fighter accelerate as she led her squadron toward the alien fleet. Her ship moved in ways that should have been impossible, making sharp turns without slowing down and accelerating faster than anything should be able to move. How are we doing this? Her wingman asked over the radio. These ships are breaking every rule of physics I know. Don't ask questions, Lieutenant Park replied. Just trust the technology and follow my lead. The human fighters moved through space like they were swimming through water instead of flying through vacuum. They made turns that should have crushed their pilots with G-forces, but the crews felt nothing unusual. The ships seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. General Thexmar watched the approaching human fighters with growing alarm. His sensors couldn't track them properly because they kept disappearing and reappearing in different locations. It was as if the ships could teleport short distances at will. Fighters in range, Lieutenant Park reported. Beginning attack run. The human weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or explosive missiles, they fired something that looked like tiny stars. When these projectiles hit Vorthak ships, they passed right through the alien shields and armor, as if they weren't there. But once inside the enemy hulls, the weapons activated. They attacked the molecular bonds that held the alien ships together, making the metal simply fall apart at the atomic level. Entire battleships began to crumble like sandcastles. What's happening to our fleet? General Thexmar demanded as he watched 5 of his largest warships collapse into scrap metal. Unknown, sir, his science officer replied with panic in his voice. Their weapons seem to phase through matter and attack molecular structure directly. We have no defense against this technology. Lieutenant Park Min-seo led her squadron through the alien fleet, her weapons taking apart enemy ships with surgical precision. She felt terrible about destroying vessels with crews aboard, but these aliens had come to wipe out all life on Earth. She was protecting her home and everyone she loved. This is impossible. She heard an alien transmission. How can a primitive species have technology like this? Commander Ojihai intercepted alien communications from her post on the indomitable horizon. The enemy was in complete panic, unable to understand what was happening to their fleet. Admiral, she reported, the aliens are requesting reinforcements from their home fleet. They're sending data about our capabilities, but their computers can't analyze our technology properly. Let them call for help, Admiral Park said calmly. When more of them arrive, we can show them even more impressive demonstrations. Dr. Shin Woo-jin was monitoring the battle from his laboratory, making notes about weapon performance and shield effectiveness. Everything was working better than their best predictions. The technology they had developed was so far beyond current galactic standards that it might as well have been magic, sir, he called to Admiral. The quantum displacement fields are stable under combat conditions. Offensive phase weapons are performing at 112% of design specifications. All systems are operating perfectly. In space, the Vorthak fleet was learning what it felt like to be completely outmatched. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were falling apart under weapons they couldn't understand, fired by fighters they couldn't track, launched from a supercarrier that seemed immune to their attacks. General Thexmar made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships retreat to safe distance. Do not pursue combat with human forces. Sir, we outnumber them 200 to 1, his weapons officer protested. Numbers mean nothing when your weapons can't hurt the enemy, and theirs can destroy you without effort. General Thexmar replied grimly. Contact High Command immediately. Tell them Earth possesses technology that defies our understanding of physics. We need experts, not more weapons. Lieutenant Park Min-seo watched the alien fleet pull back and felt a mixture of relief and pride. Her squadron had just defeated some of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, using technology that seemed like pure magic even to her. All fighters, return to base, she ordered. Mission accomplished. As the human fighters returned to the indomitable horizon, Admiral Park Tae-ho allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 of humanity's defense was complete, but he knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would be back with more ships and more questions, and eventually humanity would have to reveal the full truth about where their impossible technology had come from. The first sign was a small bubble on the ocean surface, then another and another until the water looked like it was boiling. Captain Nam Hyunwoo watched from his fighter cockpit as instruments across the Pacific Ocean went crazy, with readings they couldn't understand. "What's happening down there?" he asked over the radio. Nam Hyunwoo was Earth's best pilot, with reflexes faster than a cat and eyes that could spot enemy ships from impossible distances. "Unknown, sir," came the reply from the monitoring station. "We're reading massive displacement of water. Something big is coming up from the ocean floor." High above Earth, General Thexmar noticed the disturbance on his sensors. At first he thought it was an underwater earthquake. The small blue planet was probably shaking itself apart from fear. But then the readings got stronger and stronger until his science officers looked confused and worried. "General, the energy readings don't make sense," his chief scientist reported. "Whatever is down there is bigger than our largest battleship, but the energy signature is completely unknown. Our computers cannot identify the power source." General Thexmar laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Probably their biggest submarine coming up to surrender. Let them come. It will make this conquest even easier." But deep beneath the water, something incredible was happening. The indomitable horizon was waking up after sleeping for decades on the ocean floor. Every system came online perfectly, as if the massive ship had been built yesterday instead of over the course of 2 centuries. Lieutenant Choi Eun-ji sat in the pilot seat of her fighter, stored deep inside the Supercarrier. She was young and eager, with dreams of flying among the stars. She had been training in secret facilities since she was 18, learning to fly ships that officially didn't exist. "All pilots, this is flight control," came the voice over her radio. "Prepare for launch in 10 minutes. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Choi Eun-ji's heart began to race. After years of training, she was finally going to fly a real combat mission. She checked her instruments one more time, making sure everything was perfect. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Kang Jae-sung was deep in the engine room, watching displays that showed power levels no human technology should be able to produce. He was a genius with machines, able to fix anything and understand how the most complicated devices worked. "Power core is stable at maximum output," he reported to the bridge. "All propulsion systems are ready. Gravity generators are functioning perfectly. She's ready to fly, Admiral." The water above the indomitable horizon began to move in patterns that made no sense. Instead of just bubbling up, it formed perfect spirals that stretched for kilometers. The ocean itself seemed to be helping the massive ship rise to the surface. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Supercarrier, looking at screens that showed the ocean above them. He had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, but seeing it actually happen still filled him with wonder. "Beginning final ascent," reported the navigation officer. "Speed is increasing. We'll break the surface in 60 seconds. Around the world, satellites turned their cameras toward the Pacific Ocean. Scientists and government leaders watched in amazement as something impossible began to happen. The water was rising in a perfect dome shape, as if a mountain was growing beneath the waves. General Thexmar was no longer laughing. His sensors were showing readings that his science officers said were impossible. The object beneath the water was 15 kilometers long and 4 kilometers wide. Nothing that large should be able to move, let alone fly. "It has to be a mistake," he told his officers. "No civilization can build anything that big. Check the sensors again." But the sensors were working perfectly, and then without warning, the ocean exploded upward in a column of water that reached into space itself. The indomitable horizon burst from the Pacific Ocean like a whale breaching the surface, except this whale was larger than most cities. Water cascaded off its hull in waterfalls that fell for kilometers. The ship's armor gleamed with a strange metal that seemed to bend light around it, making it hard to look at directly. Captain Kim So-ra stood beside Admiral Park on the bridge, watching as their secret was finally revealed to the world. "Sir, all major governments are trying to contact us. The news networks are going crazy, and the alien fleet, they've stopped moving completely. Let them wonder," Admiral Park said calmly. "Open all launch bays. Prepare the fighter wings." Along the sides of the indomitable horizon, thousands of doors began to open. Each one revealed a launch bay filled with sleek fighters that looked nothing like Earth's normal aircraft. These ships had curves instead of straight lines, and they seemed to glow with inner light. Lieutenant Choi Yoonji felt her fighter lift off the deck as the launch system activated. She had trained for this moment for years, but actually flying out of the Supercarrier and into open sky was more amazing than she had ever imagined. Fighter Wing Alpha, this is your squadron leader, came Captain Nam Hyun-woo's voice over the radio. Remember your training. Stay in formation, and whatever happens, don't let the aliens see everything we can do. We want to save some surprises. The alien General Thexmar watched in shock as hundreds of human fighters poured out of the massive ship. His tactical computer tried to analyze the new vessels but came back with errors and warnings. The human ship seemed to ignore several laws of physics. "Sir, request permission to attack," his weapons officer asked. "We could destroy that ship before it fully deploys its fighters." General Thexmar almost gave the order, but something made him pause. In all his years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now his instincts were screaming that something was very wrong with the situation. "No," he said finally. "We watch and learn. Contact High Command. Tell them we need more information about this species before we proceed." Back on the indomitable horizon, more systems came online every second. Weapons that had been hidden for decades extended from the ship's hull. Shield generators that could protect entire continents began to power up. And in the deepest parts of the ship, computers that understood the universe in ways no alien empire could imagine started calculating battle strategies. Dr. Yoon Mi-young watched from her laboratory as every system performed exactly as designed. She felt proud and terrified at the same time. Humanity had built something magnificent, but now they had to use it to fight for their survival. "Admiral," she called over the communication system, "all major systems are fully operational. We're ready for whatever comes next." Admiral Park Tae-ho looked out at the alien fleet through the bridge windows. 200 massive warships hung in space above Earth, their weapons pointed at cities full of innocent people. But now they faced something they had never seen before. A human warship that was impossible by every standard they knew. "Send a message to the alien fleet," he ordered. "Tell General Thexmar that Earth is no longer accepting his surrender terms. If he wants to avoid a war, he should retreat to a safe distance and prepare for negotiations." Captain Kim So-ra looked at the Admiral with surprise. "Sir, are you sure? We still don't know how effective our weapons will be against their ships." Admiral Park smiled, and for the first time since the aliens arrived, it was a smile of confidence instead of worry. "Captain, we've been preparing for this war for 200 years. They've been preparing for about 6 hours. I like our chances." High above, General Thexmar received the human message and couldn't believe what he was reading. A species with primitive technology was threatening the mighty Vorthak Empire. It was impossible. But as he looked down at the massive ship floating on Earth's ocean, he began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, humanity had been hiding more secrets than just one impossible supercarrier. The stars looked peaceful that morning. Earth turned slowly in space, its blue oceans catching sunlight. People went to work, children played in parks, and life moved on as it always had. Nobody knew that everything was about to change forever. High above the planet, space began to shimmer. Dark shapes appeared out of nowhere, growing larger and larger. The first ship was massive, bigger than any mountain. Then came another and another. Soon, 200 alien warships filled the space around Earth like angry storm clouds. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. His gray hair was perfectly neat, and his uniform showed no wrinkles. He had been waiting for this day for 30 years. Around him, computer screens showed the alien fleet taking positions around Earth. "Sir, the alien ships are sending a message," said Captain Kim So-ra. She was young but smart, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she worked to decode the alien transmission. The main screen flickered, and a terrifying face appeared. The alien had green scales, yellow eyes, and teeth like knives. When it spoke, its voice was like rocks grinding together. "I am General Thexmar of the Vorthak Empire," the alien said. "Your planet has been chosen for conquest. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will destroy every city, every building, and every living thing on your world. This is your only warning." The message ended, leaving the command center in silence. Captain Kim So-ra looked at the Admiral with worry in her eyes. "Sir, our public fleet only has 15 ships. Their smallest vessel is bigger than our largest battleship. How can we possibly fight them?" Admiral Park Tae-ho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been keeping a very big secret for a very long time. He walked to a sealed door that had never been opened in front of the junior officers. "Commander Lee Dong-wook," he called. A tall man with serious eyes stepped forward. He had been working on secret projects for 20 years, building things that officially did not exist. "Yes, sir?" "Contact Dr. Yoon Mi-young. Tell her it's time to wake up the sleeping giant." Dr. Yoon Mi-young was in her laboratory when the call came. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes and hands that were always busy. Around her, massive computers hummed with power. These machines had been running calculations for decades, preparing for a day she hoped would never come. "The calculations are complete," she said into her phone. "All systems are ready. But Admiral, are you sure we should reveal everything? Once we show them what we have, there's no going back to the old world." "The old world ended the moment those ships appeared," Admiral Park replied. "Begin the awakening sequence." Above ground, Earth's governments were in panic. The alien ships were so advanced that human weapons could not even reach them. The president called emergency meetings, but everyone knew it was hopeless. Earth's space fleet was tiny compared to the alien armada. News reporters told people to stay calm, but fear spread like wildfire. Some cities began to empty as people fled to the countryside. Others gathered in churches and temples to pray. The internet filled with messages of love and goodbye as humanity prepared for the end. But deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something very different was happening. Lights that had been dark for decades suddenly blazed to life. Massive machines began to move with sounds like thunder. Water pumps that could drain lakes started working, pushing millions of gallons of seawater up and away. "Leviathan base is fully active," reported Commander Lee Dong-wook. "All systems are responding perfectly. The seals are holding and the launch bay is clear." Admiral Park Tae-ho stood before a wall that was 50 meters high and 200 meters wide. It looked like solid metal, but he knew better. This was the door to humanity's greatest secret, built over the course of 2 centuries by the smartest people who ever lived. "How long until the Vorthak fleet is in attack position?" he asked. Captain Kim Sora checked her screens. 6 hours, sir. They're moving slowly, probably to scare us." "Good, that gives us enough time." The Admiral placed his hand on a scanner beside the massive door. "Authorization code Omega. Admiral Park Tae-ho. Project Poseidon is now active." The enormous door began to open with a sound like mountains breaking apart. Beyond it was darkness so complete it seemed to swallow light itself. But deep in that darkness, something stirred. Dr. Yoon Mi-young's voice came over the speakers. "Admiral, all power systems are at 100%. The gravity generators are stable. Weapons are charged and ready. The crew is taking their positions." "How many people know the truth?" Admiral Park asked quietly. 50,000, Commander Lee replied. "Scientists, engineers, pilots, and support staff. Their families have been moved to safe locations. Everyone has signed documents that could send them to prison for life if they ever talk about what they've seen." The alien General Thexmar sat in his command chair, looking down at the small blue planet. His yellow eyes were cold with confidence. He had conquered 47 worlds in his lifetime. This one would be the easiest of all. "Their largest warship is smaller than one of our fighters," his lieutenant reported. "Their weapons are primitive chemical explosives. Their shields are barely stronger than their atmosphere." "Then why do we wait?" General Thexmar asked with annoyance. "Orders from High Command, sir. They want to see if the humans will surrender. It saves ammunition." On Earth, the final preparations were complete. Admiral Park Tae-ho looked at his officers with pride. These people had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity, and now their moment had finally come. "Commander, report on ocean conditions," he ordered. "Surface is clear for 50 kilometers in all directions, sir. Weather is perfect. All shipping has been diverted. Dr. Yoon, final systems check. Everything is perfect, Admiral. She's ready to fly." Admiral Park Tae-ho took a deep breath. In a few moments, the world would learn that Earth had not been sitting quietly for the past 200 years. Humanity had been preparing for this exact situation, building something that would change everything. He picked up his communication device and spoke words that had been planned for decades. "Project Poseidon is authorized. Release the Titan." Far above, the ocean began to move in ways that oceans should not move. Something impossibly large was rising from the depths, bringing with it the hope of all humanity.